I remember playing the first Assassin's Creed back in high school, which was about 8 years ago. The game was revolutionary with a blend of parkour, stealth, and a great story. But for whatever reason, Ubisoft decided to take the series in a completely different direction. Now, I've heard plenty of positive reviews about this game, and I don't doubt that it isn't a good game, but it's the drift away from the series' roots which has kept me from buying it. Before I get too into it, I want to ask how many of y'all have played the first Assassin's Creed game. I've talked to a lot of people who play Assassin's Creed, and a lot of them say that the fourth one was their introduction to the series, which, in my opinion, explains why a lot of people don't feel the same way that I do about the series. Anyway, here's why I have yet to get Valhalla. If you ever played the first game, you may remember the attention to detail the game had in regard to navigation. The parkour system was something I had never seen before, and although you were able to navigate the map faster by climbing, you were still grounded. You couldn't scale every wall you looked at just by running up to it, requiring you to think and look around to figure out how you might get to a certain location. In the recent entries, you can climb structures easily as your character wall runs and jumps walls that are like 15 to 20 feet tall. It appears that the developers have prioritized getting from A to B quickly over any sense of realism. Now, I get it, things change, our attention spans are shrinking more and more, but for me, what made Assassin's Creed was the parkour. It was an element in the game that, without it, would have made it something else entirely. Now, the stealth mechanics were very primitive in the first game, and not just measuring it based on how far it's come today. My all-time favorite stealth games are the Metal Gear Solid series. I have yet to see any game incorporate the level of stealth those games had, which by the time Assassin's Creed 1 came out, the Metal Gear Solid series was already releasing the fourth title. So although the stealth mechanics were pretty mediocre, they were still unique. The use of blending into the crowds, haystacks, and priests was something very original. Aside from the mechanics being used to help you escape your enemies, it was another feature that added to the game's immersion entirely. Most stealth games typically have your timer counting down the seconds from when the enemy last saw you, which, once it's out, the enemy is no longer searching. But most games just incorporate this by having you hide in a bush, shadows, or anywhere away from the enemy. In Assassin's Creed, you avoided detection by sitting on benches, hiding with priests who wore similar clothes, and my favorite feature, which was the blending in with the crowds. When running through crowded areas, you actually bumped into them, and bumping into too many caused you not only to trip and fall, but crowds got annoyed and caused a scene which drew attention from guards. The way you got through large crowds was to walk and hold down a button which had you slide through crowds, gently placing your hand on people to move them out of your way. This helped you get close to enemies and eavesdrop while also getting close for a kill. In my opinion, the gradual shift away from this mechanic is what caused the series to change entirely. The element was one of the most immersive features used in a game that I had ever seen. This alone made you feel like you were in the crowd and each person reacted to your movement. The camera would sometimes zoom in and out. You truly felt like an assassin, getting close to your prey in plain sight. Sadly, I think it was after the second game where Ubisoft removed it completely and decided they wanted to change Assassin's Creed from being a focused, slower paced game to more of a hack and slash. The story is a topic where people try to say the realistic immersion elements don't matter or straight up contradict everything I said before, which is pretty ludicrous in my opinion. In the first game, you're essentially betrayed by your teacher as he uses the item you've been searching for the entire game, the Apple of Eden, for his own power. Now, yes, the apple is magic as it gives you the power to control people while unleashing this crazy amount of lightning or whatever. So this is typically where people say Assassin's Creed wasn't realistic, and that's it. This is really the only point which doesn't make any sense. Sure, this is the most fictional part of the game that breaks realism, but at the end of the day, it's a game that's focused on realism. Ubisoft made a realistic game with some fiction sprinkled into it to give it some spice. They used to push for historical accuracy in the way that they developed the worlds, the weapons that were used, and the models of the characters, not for the one fictional part of the game's storyline. I've lost count, and it's so sad to say that now a majority of the releases in the series are mostly fiction with a sprinkle of realism. Now we're able to scale massive buildings within seconds. Stealth is more of an option rather than the smarter way of playing to avoid being outnumbered, and the storylines are just completely filled with magic and abilities. In the first Assassin's Creed, each mission was retrieving an item, relaying a message, killing a target. You fought regular people, and you did this with your generic weapons, your blades, knives, crossbow, and a sword. You didn't have flaming swords, poison bombs, powers, or all the special effects that are all over the place. I mean, look at the combat comparison. Valhalla looks like a fantasy RPG like Skyrim. The game used to focus on combat, on your precise parrying and timed attacks. This was paired with really cool cinematic scenes, and every enemy could stand a chance at taking you down. Each person felt alive and like a real threat to you, not just some spawn who would be there like a fly depending on your level. Overall, it's seeing this change from the series and just how far gone Assassin's Creed is from its roots, which is the main reason why I haven't bought Valhalla. Now again, I'm sure the game is great on its own, but if it is, why not release it without the Assassin's Creed title? I mean, would it not do as well? I mean, if it's really good, it should be able to do just fine without it. I don't know, but those are my thoughts. My fiance might buy it for me down the line anyway, but we'll see. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you guys could smash the like button and consider subscribing, it would really help my channel a lot with the algorithm. Anyway, I will see you all in the next video. Bye!